Hi, my name is Atul Kasbekar and I'm a photographer. I've worked for many years in India, and this I think is FAQ time. That shouldn't sound like a swear word. It's frequently asked questions about photography that I'm hoping to answer for you. Let's go. I have a deep interest in fashion, and I think it's extremely important to be aware of the fashion world. I think you should be up to date, and this is always a process. It's never over. You have to be constantly reading up and looking up magazines and periodicals and websites, blogs, etc. From all over the world, which is really easy now with the internet. And I've always believed that photographic technique is something that comes with just sheer practice and hard work. It's not that difficult. So it would be a good idea for you to maybe go through a formal education of some kind, in photography, and after that, definitely assist a couple of people whose work you like a lot. So I think one of the people whose work I've always admired is the late Richard Avedon. And what I find amazing is, at the early parts of your career, you have 20 filters at your disposal, and all these techniques, and you want to jam them all in one photograph. And later you realize that the most timeless images that we've made, less is actually a lot more. So I think one of the deepest influences of my life, which I think has stood me in very good stead, not that my style is anywhere remotely similar, is the philosophy of how Richard Avedon shot. When we're doing something like the Kingfisher calendar, for example, is we're spending a lot of money to go to a location, and if I went there and shot against a white wall, then everybody would say, yeah, why did you go all that distance to shoot against a white wall? You could have done this in a studio in Mumbai. What I usually do over there is to use wide angle lenses for fashion, and which is actually quite unusual. But what happens with a wide angle lens is I still, because of the wide angle, get a sense of the space at the location where we're at, where we've spent a lot of money to go to. Very often, sometimes, I'll use a very long lens for fashion, like a 200 millimeter, or sometimes an 85 millimeter 1.2, and shoot it almost wide open, and photographers will understand what that means, which means you use it as open an aperture as possible. What that does is gives you a very limited depth of field. So this is the opposite of what we just discussed earlier with the wide angle lenses. And if the background's not that great, it just throws it out of focus anywhere, so it just looks like a blur. On most smartphones now, you get a portrait lens feature, and the portrait lens feature basically is doing what I just said. Part of the process of directing your subject is before the shoot. I think the subject should have a really good idea in terms of what it is you expect them to do. So I'll always give them a starting point, which might be a pose I like, or a mood I like, an expression I like, and it brings them into the world of what it is you are trying to do. It's a good idea to be gentle in your tone. We always have some music on, and the music is not for me. The music is for the model. So we'll always ask what he or she wants to hear. So there's no one fixed rule as to this will make a great composition. I think instinctively you need to be a student of design and a student of art to get better and better at this. I'll give you one image we did, which was actually is one of my favorite images from the 2021 edition of the Kingfisher calendar. Is we did a top shot in the pool, and there was a very graphic swimsuit that the model's wearing, which had a lot of lines across it. And what I did was I removed the chick curtains that were there in the room, and had it placed above. Now, when you're shooting with top light, if you're facing the camera this way, you'll almost inevitably get deep under eye shadows. It's not usually flattering light, but at that time The colors are the most rich and saturated. Okay, so like the blues and the skin tone looks fantastic. So I wanted to shoot then, but we solved the problem of the top light by shooting from top, and having the model look up. And I placed these chick curtains above, so there was the pattern of the swimsuit, the pattern of the chick curtains, casting shadow and light on the subject. And more importantly, we shot it in the shallow end of the pool, and we created lots of different ripples in the water, and then they've been digitally manipulated to have the ripples looking different in different sections. So we just moved the water around, we threw a stone in so it got ripples, we moved it more vigorously and shot different frames, which we were clear that we would do some post-production and mix it up. So in my head, compositionally, what I wanted to do was create some kind of optical art. So you look at a picture and then you look again and you say, oh wait, the shadows, oh look at the lines over here. So I think in a two-dimensional image, when you can do a photo that becomes layered, it becomes that much more interesting for repeat viewing. So I'm hoping the next time the same person sees the picture, they notice something else, and then after that they notice something more. And when you've done that, I think you've created a little more longevity for the shot, and it gives it a little more gravitas and a little more depth. All creative people should have an agent, should have a manager. Creative people should not be talking their own commerce at all. In the photography world, very few people have people discussing money, payment timelines, usage rules, etc. So I wish at the beginning of my career there was fundamentally something like this that was available, which would have made life a lot easier, because then you can focus on what it is that you do best, which is create images and hopefully great photographs.